In Chapter 2, we have already learned about climate change. If you recall, climate change is defined as a long-term change in the Earth's overall temperature with massive and permanent consequences resulting from large emissions of greenhouse gases. Climate change has been affecting the entire world with more frequent extreme weather conditions such as drought, heat waves, heavy rain, floods, and landslides. Other consequences include rising sea levels, ocean acidification, and loss of biodiversity. The Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change has set a threshold of 1.5 degrees Celsius for global mean surface temperature increase to limit global warming. The achievement of this goal depends on greenhouse gas emissions over the next decades, where lower greenhouse gas emissions in 2030 lead to a higher chance of keeping peak warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. Terms like carbon neutrality, net zero carbon emission, or climate positive have been created. Among them, carbon neutrality is the most commonly used term. Carbon neutrality means having a balance between emitting carbon and absorbing carbon from the atmosphere in carbon sinks. Carbon sink is any system that absorbs more carbon than emits. The main natural carbon sinks are soil, forests, and oceans. For more information about carbon sink, please refer to Chapter 5.3, the carbon cycle. Here, I need to point out that although the term carbon neutral is used, a carbon footprint also includes other greenhouse gases measured in terms of their carbon dioxide equivalents. Net zero carbon emissions means that an activity releases net zero carbon emissions into the atmosphere. Net zero emissions balance the whole amount of greenhouse gas released and the amount removed from the atmosphere. Removing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and then storing it is known as carbon sequestration. In order to achieve net zero emissions, all worldwide greenhouse gas emissions will have to be counterbalanced by carbon sequestration. Climate positive means that activity goes beyond achieving net zero carbon emissions to create an environmental benefit by removing additional carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Climate neutral refers to reducing all greenhouse gases to the point of zero while eliminating all other negative environmental impacts that an organization may cause. A global count of 198 countries are committed to achieving carbon neutrality in the future, with countries such as Berlin, Bhutan, Cambodia, and Suriname already having achieved carbon neutrality. Countries such as Australia and Russian Federation have declared or committed themselves to be carbon neutral between 2030 and 2070. Canada, Japan, South Korea, and the European Union has proposed carbon neutral legislation. China and the United States of America have mentioned carbon neutrality targets in their policy documents. Overall, of the 198 countries that have committed to achieving carbon neutrality goals, 4.5% have already achieved carbon neutrality. 10.6% have declared or committed themselves to achieving carbon neutrality goals. 8.6% has legislated for achieving carbon neutrality goals. 29.3% have formulated relevant policies to achieve carbon neutrality goals, and the remaining 47% are in the process of discussing relevant documents to achieve carbon neutrality. In order to show the determination of the Chinese government to strengthen international cooperation in the fight against climate change, in September 2020, President Xi Jinping announced that the People's Republic of China will aim to have carbon dioxide emissions peak before 2030 and achieve carbon neutrality before 2060. In July 2021, China National Carbon Market began online trading. Carbon trading is the process of buying and selling permits to emit greenhouse gases among designated emitters. It began on July 16th last year and now includes nationally 2,162 power generating enterprises, covering about 4.5 billion tons of carbon dioxide emissions. The program imposes carbon emission limits for every unit of electricity a power plant generates. After each cycle of trading, operators can sell any carbon allowances they have left over after complying with the benchmark. China will promote the expansion of the market step by step, adhering to the general principle of pursuing progress while ensuring stability. From 2021 to 2025, the national carbon market will expand to other industries with high energy consumption: iron and steel, construction materials, non-ferrous metals, petroleum chemicals, paper manufacturing, and aviation, according to the ministry. China will focus on reducing emissions from industries such as iron and steel, non-ferrous metals, building materials, petrochemical and chemical, and urban and rural constructions, and develop a circular economy by promoting the comprehensive use and recycling of resources. In November 2021, the State Organ Affairs Administration, the National Development and Reform Commission, and other governmental organizations jointly issued a notice on the action plan to deepen the green and low-carbon transformation of public institutions in the bid to promote public institutions to reduce emissions and conserve energy. And in December 2021, the State-Owned Asset Supervision and Administration Commission of the State Council, China's cabinet, issued the guiding opinions on promoting the high-quality development of central state-owned enterprises to achieve carbon peaking and carbon neutrality.
We are also beginning to realize the intertwined nature between climate and biodiversity.
Climate change aggravates biodiversity loss and weakens nature's capacity to absorb carbon, further hastening climate change. Breaking this vicious cycle requires addressing these two challenges simultaneously and with equal vigor. For example, restoring mangrove forests can deliver multiple benefits, for enhancing fish nurseries, to store carbon, to mitigating the impacts of storm surge. Encouragingly, China is jump-starting this effort by launching its National Mangrove Conservation and Restoration Action Plan, an initiative informed in part by a strategic study completed by the Paulson Institute and its partner. Under this plan, a total of 18,800 hectares of mangrove forest will be rehabilitated and planted by 2025. Okay, that will be all for today's lesson. See you next time.